All right, baseball season is officially over with the
Oh, yeah.
Texas Rangers winning the World Series. Boch gets number 4. Happy for him. Diamondbacks put up a good fight for 3 games, I guess,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
had the no hitter in the game, or maybe that was game 4. But you have a no hitter at
That was in the
home.
final game. They had a
Oh, was
no-hitter
it?
going into the 6th inning.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was
I
game
mean,
5.
it's
That was
yeah,
game
and then
5.
they got it's just, hard luck. You're facing a team filled with, $300 million hitters, and they didn't get to be $300 million hitters because they're bunch and Judies. I mean, these guys are going to hit bombs. Semien hit a bomb. Uh, Seager hit multiple bombs. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't hold him back for too long. And like we talked about on last show, like how do you stop Texas? How does Arizona come back? And it was pretty much going to be, you got to keep Texas in the yard, is what I was saying. And they just didn't. I mean, they did for 6 innings in the final game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Shelvin, who's watched this show and commented, but he's mostly hangs out with Rod and I in the 49ers show. He was at that game. He was sending comments into the Discord during the game, and I think he knew. I think most Diamondbacks fans knew that they were going to be the underdog. But the great thing about being the underdog is really the expectation, because if you win, fantastic, great, it's the best thing ever. And if you lose, you kind of were supposed to lose. So from that perspective, if I'm the Diamondbacks fan, I'm probably really happy about that season, even though, I don't know, 84 wins. They get to the World Series with 84 wins. But what was the Giants' lowest win total when they made it in the World Series? 88? Was that the 2014?
Yeah, I believe it was 88 in 2014. It was a wild card team going in against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I got to look at the standings from 2014. But yeah, I believe so, because their best team, 94 wins, I think, was 2012. Was that a 94 win team?
When is
3.
what was Houston, when Houston won the World Series last year? Were they the division winner?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Because that was another double wild card World Series, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was the first year of the double wild card. Yeah, they won the division. What? Yeah, look up 2022 MLB standings on Google, right? And I get Major League Baseball 2024 season, and they're showing me the standings from 2023. So Google can't make up its mind. 2023, yeah, Houston won 106 games. That was the monster season. Dodgers won 111, but Houston had the second most wins with 106 last year. I keep saying last year. Now, and I was listening to a baseball podcast earlier, and they said last season. They were referencing 2022.
Yeah.
When can we say last season was 2023? Do we have to
I don't
wait
know.
until spring training?
Maybe January.
Yeah, probably. That's true. Yeah.
Did you get any feelings for Boch when you saw him pacing the dugout and in that hobbling walk that he has, and he's the last guy out of the dugout, and
yeah,
he's got his trophy next to him. Like, it was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I didn't, I'm not one of those fans. You'd stay off of social media.
It
sometimes
sucks. It's so
because
bad.
It's so rough, because I'm not one of those ones that's like, Bochy would have stayed. We won another World Series. Have you seen our roster? Has anybody seen our roster the last couple of seasons? You're not winning a World Series with any of those rosters. It was a miracle to win 107 games in 2021. That, the right strings were pulled. Older players had awesome comeback seasons. It's not, I don't know, man. I'm not one of those ones who's going to look at it and say revisionist history that, Bochy would have taken the Giants to the World Series. The guy was tired. He was done. But I loved seeing him, do his thing this year with Texas. He came back in the right situation, right? I mean, he came back in a situation that worked for him. Him and Chris Young, great friends. Bochy managed Chris Young back in the days. And speaking of Chris Young, the GM for the Texas Rangers. And he came back to a situation where he had a pretty decent pitching staff. he knew the Rangers were going to go and make moves to go all in and push for this, because they've technically already gone all in a couple seasons ago with the contracts that they gave.
Mm-hmm.
The contracts that they gave Semyon, all the money that they were doling out, they're kind of already all in, and they were looking for the right manager. This was the perfect situation. This was not we could have plugged Bochy into the Chicago White Sox roster this year and he would have won the World Series. No, it was the roster. It was Bochy. It was the mystique in the playoffs. Everything that Bochy does. I mean, look at the Texas Rangers had a losing record on the road this season, and they go 11-0 in the playoffs on the road. So, I mean, things happen in the playoffs that you can't predict. Having Bochy there to pull the right strings at the right time really, really helped his ball club along the way. So, but it was fun to see him hoist that trophy. It was fun to see the pictures of him on the airplane with it sitting next to him. He's still going in the Hall of Fame in a Giants hat. I don't care what you say.
I'm trying to envision Bochy managing the 2021 Giants, where it's okay. Lamont, you're not starting this game, but in the 7th inning, they're going to bring in a right-handed pitcher, and you're going to be ready. And you're going to Bochy would just be like, "Who are my best 9? Like, what are you doing here?"
Yeah, I'm going to start. Buster Posey, and Buster Posey's going to play all 9 every game all season long. We're going to wear him down, but he's Buster Posey, so he's going to be out there. There's not a whole lot of platooning going on. Bochy was the guy who, we all remember as Giants fans, if you got a spot start and you hit a home run, you just won yourself another start the next day. It didn't matter, a left-hander, right-hander, how you were, against this pitcher in the past. You were going out there and you were going to play the next game because you hit a home run the day before. You earned it, and you earned that right, and Bochy would give it to you. So,
yeah, this is not to say that he's only going by hunches or anything, or his gut. There's a lot of information for him as well. But
absolutely,
yeah, I like I just like the thought of Zadie having this playbook for Boch, and oh, by the way, get Schmidt ready. It's gonna be a lefty coming up. But JD Davis, or whomever, that they got 2 hits, so it doesn't matter. They're coming out. We got to get the matchup going.
Does he do the major league thing? And Lou Brown takes the playbook or whatever it is, throws it on the ground and pisses on it. I mean,
exactly. Exactly. All right, let's go to the drink thing first.
Yeah.
Because
is this going to go fast? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, definitely. But I also have a very interesting whiskey that I purchased the other day. I mentioned to you that I went into Whole Foods.
Yes.
And I just kind of peeked at their alcohol, and I was very surprised to see stuff that I would normally not see, except if you went to like a Bevmo where they have everything and you really have to sit there for 30 minutes before you can decide. Yeah. This is called Fuyu, Fuyu. It is a Japanese small batch whiskey. And I also just always love the Japanese spelling of whiskey versus other spellings of whiskey, one with an E, one not an E. So Fuyu means winter in Japanese. This whiskey was distilled from malted grain and mashed corn on Honshu Island before resting in oak barrels. Its rich flavors make it ideal for cocktails such as Old Fashioned and Manhattan. Spicy notes, caramel, generous oak for the palate, and cooked fruit finish with a hint of smokiness. That is how they'd describe this whiskey. But I figured we're getting close to, we're not super close to winter yet, but the daylight savings happened, and so now it's 5:00 here, 5:30 here, and it's already dark. And I was like, got to bring out
it's 47 degrees here, so we'll call it winter.
You can call it winter. I did walk outside today and had a really good walk, and it was like 68 degrees. So it was like perfect.
God, we've had nothing but wind and rain and half snow, and I don't know what else is going on out there. It was not not a fun drive to and from work. And I walked to get coffee this morning, and I was getting pelted in the face with half snow. And I thought, it's Reno, whatever. I got to get my coffee.
Yeah, it's I feel spoiled in that over the weekend I was like, is it too sunny to go on a walk outside? Should I wait? It's 72 degrees. Should I wait until it's like 5 o'clock and it gets down to 68?
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't be doing that. I'll just get out and walk.
Anything below 80, perfect walking weather, man.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
All right. Well, do you like it? I mean, is it good? Is this something I should go and pick up? Because I've been wanting to try Japanese whiskeys, and so give me a starting point.
I would be interested in your thought on it. I have
Okay.
had there's a couple of different Japanese whiskeys that I've tried in the $30-ish per bottle range. This was a little bit more expensive. This was in the $50-ish. So the way that it goes down, the smoothness is definitely much more impressive than the cheaper ones. But taste wise, they're very similar. But I'm a sucker for just different. I'm a sucker for
Yeah.
the possibility of, oh, this may taste a little bit different or new or something that I have. I'm still so new into the scotches and such and the whiskeys. So anything that sort of, if they wanted to really sell me something, they just have to put like a brand new label on it and make it look colorful. And I'm like, that's the one that I want.
Yeah, that's pretty much me in IPAs. If you put hazy or juicy on the can, I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna give it a shot. I've had some really bad ones, but I'll still try it. New season, new beginnings, right? We're heading into spring train, or sorry, free agency. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Winter meetings.
Yeah, we got to get through Christmas first. We got to get through. Remember the old days when the GMs would get the families over for Thanksgiving to try to woo them, like Kurt Schilling. We need that again, man. We did, no Zoom, no Teams, none of this stuff, no FaceTime. You get them over for a turkey dinner, and you get some good cooking going, and you could woo some.
I don't think I'd want Kurt Schilling over for Thanksgiving.
No, not anymore.
He would probably come dressed as a pilgrim.
He would, and he would be wearing a red hat. That's just what he does.
A pilgrim with a MAGA hat. That's how he comes dressed.
Old Kurt Schilling, God, and a bloody sock. He'd bring the bloody sock too and say, "Remember what I did?"
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares. New beginnings, new season. I busted out the Lagavulin, the 8-year smoky peaty. One of my favorites. My dad bought this for me for Christmas, not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before. Look at how much I have left.
Yeah.
I savor my scotches. It takes me a really long time.
I ran out of mine.
So. Oh, you ran out?
Yeah, I did run out. And
well, that's good because
I'll get more at some point. But now that is the one, like, we don't talk like this anymore because we're a little bit more civilized. But when we were a much more juvenile society and culture, somebody would say, "Hey, have a sip of this. It'll put hair on your chest."
Yeah, there you go.
Say something like that. That may physically put hair on your chest. That is, you feel that when you drink it, which I love.
You do. It's a good sipper. I put one little ice cube in it, like I like to do. Kind of opens it up a little bit. And I think I had a couple sips, and I think my beard grew a little bit more. It's quite possible. I got to trim it. It's getting a little long, but yeah. So this is it's so cold outside today, and we keep looking. So Denise and I are going for our belated anniversary trip.
Yeah, I saw the Instagram photo.
Yeah,
was great.
We like to try to go in November, first couple of weeks of November, because our anniversary is late October, and so we're going up to South Tahoe, up to kind of top of Heavenly Resort and stuff like that. So we're going this weekend. So I thought I'm bringing some scotches and bourbons with me, and just going to kind of hang out, because up there, I keep looking at the daytime highs. We're like, hey, we're going to go hiking. We have 2 full days. It's going to be beautiful. Sun will be out, but the highs are like 40, 41. So you don't get those until like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So yeah. We're still trying to figure that one out.
Okay, so you have your scotch, you have your whiskey.
Yep.
You have your bourbon. Does she have red wine? What is she bringing with her?
Yeah, so our wonderful my wonderful brother-in-law, her brother, and his wife, they belong to Wente Winery, I
Mm,
think in Livermore. I think it's in Livermore.
I
And
may have been
so
there before.
yeah, so every year they belong to them, and so they every year they gift us a really just outstanding bottle of red, whatever it
Mhm.
is. A lot of times it's a blend of some sort. So we had two. We had one from last year that we hadn't opened yet, and then we have one that they just gave us. So we'll bring that and also kind of sip on that. And again, not being a wine guy, I don't really know the differences, but I can absolutely tell you, anytime I have a sip of whatever they give us, it's like, oh, so this is wine. This is like the good stuff. This is not the $2 chuck from Trader Joe's. It's not $2 anymore. I think it's like $4 now because of inflation. But you drink that stuff and you go, oh, yeah, it's pretty good. It's red wine. I like it. But you drink the Wente special reserves, small barrel reds. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's I could become a wine drinker, but then the
Yeah.
problem is it's like then I'd have to spend $50 on a bottle of wine, and
Yeah,
I don't think I could do that.
one update, I finished the knee injections that I had
Oh,
scheduled.
yeah.
I don't remember if I brought it up on this podcast or not, but I had some knee injections to battle, arthritis, and, I'm comfortable with injections and such and getting
Oh,
blood
yeah.
drawn, but to see a needle go into your knee, that is an interesting one. That's
Yeah,
the
because
one
they
where
'cause
you
they're not
go,
small either.
well, it's actually not, I mean, it's a long needle, but it's not like,
Yeah.
it's pretty thin, but just the idea of, like, we're very comfortable with needles going into, your forearm to get that vein, to draw some blood, maybe in the shoulder for your flu shot or your COVID shot. I don't know, steroid users maybe in the rear end. But, but not in the knee. That was that one tripped me out. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with them. So hopefully I'll have some relief in these knees. And
Are
you
you
know,
feeling better yet? Are you feeling more mobile?
so I am feeling more mobile for sure.
Good.
The pain hasn't really subsided though. Like the way that I
Okay.
described it is I don't have old injured knees. I
Mhm.
have newer injured
Ooh,
knees. So I like
yeah.
they are I'm a little more spry. I can walk down the stairs without having to do the two-step shuffle sideways down the
Oh, yeah.
stairs. So I'm feeling, but then you would think, "Oh, well, maybe they won't be as painful." It's like, "No, they're still pretty painful. I've just had to deal with the pain for the last 20 years, so I'm used to it." But yeah, but hey, I'll take having more energy and being able to walk a little more quickly on my walks and not feel like, I have to just do the Bochi walk down the stairs,
Oh god. No, you're
Yeah.
too young for the Bochi walk, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping these things work for you because that's one of the things as you get older is walking. That's one of the few things we can do as we get older and older and older is just to continue to be mobile and
Yeah.
continue to walk. So when your health is taken away from you in that way, it gets extremely frustrating. I was talking to a woman at work today who's probably, I don't know, 15 years older than me, maybe 10 years older than me, and she's teaching a body combat class. And she's like, I'm going to have you come over to the gym when I film it so I can get my accreditation. I go, do you think there's any way, shape, or form I can keep up with you at teaching this body combat class? I said, because you're in fantastic shape. I said, I got a bad hip. I said,
Mhm.
my upper shoulder hurts quite often. I said, so I can try to do this with you. I said, but maybe don't put me on camera. I'll just be in the crowd, kind of in the background. So yeah, that's always frustrating.
Yeah, it's it is what it is, but the doc said, the one thing you may not want to do with these gel injections in your knees, probably don't want to run. I was like,
Um,
that that's not hard for me not to do. I'm not
Stopped doing that a while ago.
I'm not out there, trying to run marathons. I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm good with the fast paced walk. Though, I do miss playing basketball. I may go out there with the boys and, my do I get back on defense? I might be a little bit like 1989 Kareem, where he
There you
barely passed half court unless the ball was stopped and he had to go past. That might be me on the basketball court, but we'll see.
Well, maybe you could play 5.5 on 5, and then you just hang out in the offensive side and cherry pick, and then they can kind of just hang out. You have a defensive player that does your job over there. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk some Giants. So one little cool tidbit is Logan Webb is a finalist for the
Ooh.
Cy Young, the National League Cy Young. And when you and I were kids, they didn't have finalists. They didn't have these like award shows.
No, they
You
just gave you
just
the
knew a day and they just told you who won. And then maybe you'd see a ballot. As we got closer to the internet age, you were able to see all the votes and everything. But I guess November 16th is when the awards will be given out. And they do it on an actual show on the MLB network now, right?
Yeah, they do. And I don't know if they do them all at the same time. It used to be a daily thing, right?
Yeah, they would do
Yeah,
them. They would do them like every day of the week, and it would
yeah,
start with like rookie of the year, but rookie of the year or rookie of the year. No, rookie of the year not up. The Gold Gloves actually are up. It'd be like rookie of the
right.
year, manager of the year. Then you'd get to Cy Young and MVP like the next day. But actually, I think it's kind of cool to do it this way.
Yeah.
It's a it makes it a little bit of an event, I guess. But the guys that our guy Logie is competing against for this award, Blake Snell and Zach Gallen. Now it sounds like Blake Snell is the front runner. He's going to be a free agent. He's going to be one of the guys getting paid on this free agency. And I thought, you know what? I'd rather have Logan Webb.
Okay.
Blake Snell is maybe the best 5 and dive guy in the history of baseball. That's how
Yeah,
I would explain him.
yeah.
But Logan Webb is going to go deep into games. I don't know if he led the league in innings, but he
He
was up
did.
there in
Yeah,
innings,
I
I
believe
think,
he
this
did.
year. So great to see. He's not going to win. He probably will finish in third. I would imagine Gallen would finish ahead of him, but really cool to see. You know, if you looked at it from like a wins and losses and ERA standpoint, like his numbers aren't fantastic, but if you look deeper and what the opportunities he gave the Giants, and just the stability, like imagine like Logan Webb comes into camp and they're like, "Hey, guy, you and Alex Cobb are going to be our starters." He's like, "Great, who's 3, 4, and 5? We'll let you know. There may
Yeah.
not be a 3, 4, and 5. We'll see." And so that's a little bit more of pressure. Like if you don't have a great staff, like we can look back. You remember Mulder and Hudson and Zito, like
Oh god,
those
yeah.
guys were competitive. So the back end of that rotation, it's like, if they're not great, who cares? We got Mulder and Hudson and Zito coming up. Like we'll take care
Yeah.
of business. Same with Lincecum and Kane. So when you're Webb and you're like, you're the guy, you're the one. We have a true ace of the staff. He may be the only starter on staff, but he's the ace. And it's like literally like every time Logan Webb took the mound, the pressure was on him to get through innings because of the way the Giants use their bullpen. Like they use their bullpen with the idea that Logan Webb's throwing 6.5, 7 innings.
Oh yeah. You left out Swift, Burkett, Mulholland, and Torres. You forgot
What
about that
about Dave
rotation.
Burba?
I mean, Dave Burba.
No, he was a
Funny.
couple years earlier.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I was just looking at innings pitch. Blake Snell had 180 this season. Logan Webb had 216. Um, we'll call Blake Snell 6 and dive, because looking at from, oh gosh, like June on, he pitched and almost exactly. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what Bob Melvin was doing here, but we'll have to figure it out. At no point, only two of Blake Snell's starts this season, and let me see how many starts he had. 32 starts. Only two of them did he pitch and have a fraction of an inning.
Hmm.
All the other 30 starts, he had either exactly 5, 4, 6, or 7 innings pitched.
So he never pitched more than 7 innings in one game.
Never did.
That's
Never pitched
amazing.
more than 7 innings. His first start of the season, 4 1/3. Second start of the season, 3 2/3. After that, it was either an even 5, 6, 4, 7, and that was it. But from June on, the majority of his starts went exactly 6 innings.
Mm,
So we'll call him 6 and dive.
6 and dive.
Yeah, when you look at Logan Webb, on the other hand, and again, I'm just comparing these two because I kind of feel like Snell's going to win it,
Yeah.
and you do too, and Gallen's going to be hanging in there. I kind of think Logan Webb could actually come in
I think he's
second.
gonna finish second.
I think it's possible, and I think it's because he's a throwback guy. He does pitch a lot of innings, and I think the voters are going to kind of take that into consideration because when you look at Logan Webb starts from June on, and I kind of use from June on because April, May, they're kind of getting their footing underneath them. They're
Mhm.
not going as deep as they probably should. Although Logan Webb's first start was exactly 6 innings, and he hit 7 innings by his 5th start, so he's already
Yeah.
kind of warmed up and ready to go. But from June on, Logan Webb went 7 or more innings almost every time out. I'd say probably about 65 to 70% of his times out. In July, he had one game where he had the complete game, 9 innings. Then he went 7, 7 and a third. In August, he had an 8 2/3. And looking at September, he went 8 innings. Last start of the season, he had that complete game, 9 innings pitch, and finished with a 3.25 ERA. I saw a lot of, and again, social media.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of just trashing Logan Webb and saying he shouldn't even be on that list, and where's Zach Wheeler and everything else. But you put all those numbers together, and Logan Webb could easily finish in second place in the voting. He probably won't, but I could see how he could.
You know, there's a pretty incredible stat there for Gallen. I think there were like 4 games in a row, or maybe it was either 4 or 5 starts in a row early in the season too, where he went a number of innings, gave up 0 runs, and they turned into team shutouts.
Hmm.
It was like 4 or 5 in a row. And then he had one other before he actually threw a full shutout. He threw a 9-inning shutout. So I think in like 7 starts of his 30 some odd starts, there were 7 of those were shutouts. So that's pretty crazy number there.
That's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah. And you look at Webb, he had 1 complete shutout game, and then another game where he went 6 and gave up none. So Gallen, that shows that, in certain instances, Gallen maybe a little bit more dominant than Webb would have been, though Webb probably a little bit more consistent. And I'm sure if you compared, well, we know the teams were comparable until the end of the season, so there were pretty clear competition of both those teams, about the same until the Diamondbacks pulled away late in the season. Though I think we would say the Diamondbacks were more talented.
Oh, yeah.
They have way more young talent too, which is kind of important as we go on.
Yeah, and of course we're jealous of that, and we want to see our guys do that. But and free agency's coming up, so we may not see, we may not see as many of our young guys as we did last year, depending on how free agency comes around. So.
Yeah, Davis, who's checking in with us, says that you bringing up the stats is why he enjoys the finalist part of the award, seeing how they measure up against each other.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. Thanks for bringing that up, Davis, because I gotta say, the amount of people that I see bashing baseball and analytics in general, baseball is numbers. Baseball is stats.
Since we were little kids.
Since we were kids, I would pore over stats in any book that I can find because I didn't have ESPN growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We just had the newspaper. We had the local, living in the Bay Area, we had the local TV channels. So I didn't have any cable at all growing up. I had an antenna on the roof of the house. So if I wanted to watch Giants games, I got KTVU Giants games, and Giants on KMBR. And otherwise I would get magazines, books, anything I can find, baseball cards, looking at numbers, and then video games, Earl Weaver baseball. I had this one game on the Apple IIe. I don't even know what it was called. But you could input stats
Mm-hmm.
for players, and then you could simulate a season.
Oh yeah,
And
I
it
know the
was
game you're talking about.
oh god, it was the greatest thing as a child who loved baseball and loved numbers. So thanks for saying that, Davis, because that does kind of bring us all back to people who bash analytics and everything else. Yeah, you know what? Numbers are part of the game, man, and stats are part of the game. There is no other sport that takes stats so seriously than baseball, and that's why we love it. So
Let's see, what else should we talk about? So we have some news about some players. Now, let me preface this by saying, I had a conversation with Brad this weekend, just a text conversation where Brad said, I hope Manaea opts in and I hope Conforto opts out.
So are you saying I should not play the lottery this week? Is that what you're saying?
I was just like, they must have heard you. They're like,
I guess,
like
man.
this guy.
I'm going to show this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Manaea opting out. Baggerly talked about how one of the things with him is his ability to keep throwing hard, which has always been an issue with him. You know, a lot of this happens with a lot of pitchers. You start the season, you're throwing, 96, 97, and by the end of the season, you're throwing 92, and you're having to throw a bunch more sliders and spinners and stuff because you don't have the same velocity. And that's because of a long season, and your body's just worn down. And Manaea is just big dude. He's like 6'4". He's jacked. He looks like he should be he looks like he should be a tight end instead of a baseball player.
Oh yeah.
And he was able to this year. We had the funny quote that I continued to bring up when he said, usually in the off season, I don't really do much. And this year I needed to work because I had a bad year the year before. It's like, he figured it out. Like, this is what it takes to be a long professional veteran in baseball. So, I think it's good that he's betting on himself. And what I hope is that it means that he's sort of figured out the recipe to being a successful player. I wonder if the Giants are fully out. I would imagine that they're out because of whatever he believes the price tag is. I don't even know if the price tag is going to be much more than he's making with the Giants. It just might be a bunch of years.
That's what I think. And I saw that on Twitter quite a bit yesterday. They said, good luck trying to get 12.5 million somewhere else. I don't think he's going to get 12.5 million a year, but if you get a 2-year or a 3-year, let's say you get a 3-year, $33 million deal. 33 is more than 12.5.
Yeah.
I mean, he can come back with the Giants and pitch for 12.5 and blow his arm out.
Yeah.
And then you get nothing.
Yeah.
So to secure a 3-year 33 guaranteed, that even though it's less ABV, it's 11. I don't know. Did I say ABV? That's alcohol.
Alcohol by volume.
Yeah. My bad. I meant to say AAV.
AAV. That is like, that's the bet, right? Like you're the whole thing about this, unless you are now basketball contracts can be a little different because these players,
those I don't understand.
Like LeBron James, he made it. He kind of created this situation where, because historically, a lot of these players, especially if you were came from like a poor family, and you're like, oh, I want to get locked into some stability. I've never had stability, especially when it comes to money. And so you kind of get locked in, and the owners would take advantage of that. And LeBron was like, you know what? I'm going to sign for 1 year, and I am going to determine if you have the chance to re-sign me or not. And so every year, he goes to the Cavs. I'm sorry, he goes to the Miami Heat, and then he comes back to the Cavs, and it was like, I'm going to sign a 1-year deal, and if you want me back, then you'll have to sign me to another 1-year deal, and it'll be higher than the previous one before that. And then I'm gonna sign, because basically what he learned in his career when he was a younger player is that the Cavaliers were like, "Oh, we're locked in on this guy. Like, we have him for 5 years or
Yeah.
whatever it was." And so when there wasn't as much of a priority to put a winner around him, like, "Oh, we're selling tickets.
Yeah,
He's the
people are going
man.
to come.
Yeah, he's the man." And then at some point he was like, I need players." And that was one of the main reasons he left to go to Miami to go play with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And I think he learned at that moment, he's like, "I have to put the pressure on management to go out and get players who are going to help me win the championship. I cannot rely on them just doing it out of their goodwill. I have
Yeah,
to
right.
force that to happen." And so I thought we were seeing a little bit of that in baseball, but in reality, what it was in baseball is you give the player a little bit of control, but the player actually has to take a back step on the contract. And so there was a little bit of a negotiation there. Someone like Shohei, he's going to sign a 10-year deal for 500 million or whatever it is. It would not be smart of him to go, "You know what? I'm going to sign for 3 years and then I'm going to come back to the market." Cause like you said, he could blow out his arm and probably wouldn't be worthless because he's still got the crazy bat. But in basketball,
Sure.
it's a little bit different because you're almost incentivized to move on and to find a different market and to find a different team. It's how the NBA ecosystem stays. It keeps the fans stay interested because of the movement, the player movement. Now, the local teams are probably pretty frustrated. Like if you have a LeBron James, you're like, "Oh, he's my favorite. He's on the Cavs." And then he leaves to Miami. You're like burning his jersey, and then he comes back to the Cavs. Like, "Oh, I got to go find that jersey that I.
How do
Oh
I
no, I burned it."
unburn a jersey?
And then he's your favorite again, and then he leaves the Lakers, and you're like, "Oh, I'm burning this jersey again." Like,
Yeah.
it's just that's part of it. But in the way that the NBA works with the fans and the hardcore crowd, the audience, like they love the movement. Like Damian Lillard goes to the Milwaukee Bucks, and it's a story in the NBA for multiple days. And Giannis and Damian Lillard are going to play together. This is interesting. And then they go out and get blown out in a few games, and people are like, "Oh, maybe this is not the best thing." But that's kind of what keeps the sport invigorated. Just baseball contracts are so different. So with Conforto, I think we kind of got worked a little bit by Scott Boras here.
Yeah.
I do wonder if he was, I'm sure the Giants ownership would have had to check him out and make sure that he, especially after the Correa thing, like I'm sure they did their due diligence on his medicals, but he was pretty dinged up last year. And he even said, "My defense wasn't there. And, maybe
Yeah.
my shoulder wasn't there 100%. So not, I'm sure the Giants gave up something. They also got something. They probably got him at a lower price than they would have. But at the end of the day, I'm going like, Boris had something up his sleeve. But that bodes well for this year if maybe we didn't have the 100% Conforto, and maybe this year's a little bit closer to the 100% Conforto.
Exactly. And so you got to look at it this way too. If he has a good season and he really likes playing for Bob Melvin, maybe you get him at a discount for a longer deal, a 2-3 year deal after that. If the Giants can start to build a winner with him on the team, I almost said around him, but you don't build a winner around Michael Conforto. He is the building that goes around, like a Shohei, a Cody Bellinger and whatnot, who we'll talk about in a little bit because it's interesting stuff on him I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
But, for sure, Conforto, you don't play for a full season. You have surgery. You come back. You play 162 games. So of course you're going to have a hurt hamstring. You're going to have a hurt shoulder. He's already said he didn't quite play the defense that he thought he could play. So now he's got a full off season in between playing all last year and then playing this coming season. So he kind of knows what his body needs at this point. I definitely expect more out of him. 20, 25 home runs, maybe a 270 hitter. slugging maybe like 450, 500, somewhere in there. On base percentage like 350. So if you can get him up around an OPS of like 700, 750, is that a win? Probably, but now we have a lot of outfielders. So he opted in. So you've got 4 full-time outfielders in Haniger, Conforto, Slater, and
Yes.
Yaz. So some moves are probably going to be made, although Slater and Yaz are both arbitration eligible, and Haniger is tied to a contract. Can't really move him. I mean, you can.
Nobody's gonna trade for him.
No, I mean, you can.
Conforto's a possibility though,
He's a
because
possibility. You could eat a lot of that deal.
yeah, and he's only 1 year, so you're not
Yeah.
if you are a team that needs a left-handed bat and you believe that he's gonna have a better year, I could see him being a possible asset, but also the Giants could use him in the jock role that they had last year.
Yeah. Do you see it being more of a move that the Giants make after spring training or towards the end of spring training when they see what Luis Matos is up to, what Elio Ramos is up to, what Wade Meckler is up to? I mean, do you see it kind of going further into? Also, depends too. Cody Bellinger. If the Giants decide to make a move for Cody Bellinger and do sign him, now you have to kind of make a move.
Yeah.
At that point.
I think Yaz and Slater, if I'm a really good baseball team and I need depth, those guys would be very attractive to me.
Yeah.
As starters, they're kind of ho-hum starters, but as fourth outfielders, they're kind of awesome fourth outfielders.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And so I think that is going to be a valuable asset, both of those guys. And I kind of think the market might be a little bit more attractive sooner than later for these guys, because as you get into spring training, I think you're looking at you maybe have already kind of filled in your roster with those guys who you think are going to be your fourth outfielder types, and so you kind of get locked in on those guys. But if you can go into spring training and have a Yaz as your fourth outfielder, that's a pretty attractive thing. So I would say those guys, if they get moved, I would think, between now and, and before spring training would be the optimal time if I was a team, because you kind of want to lock in your guys, and you want, Yaz is attractive because he's sort of like a baseball lifer, and he didn't have the success right away in his career, and he sort of stuck with it, and he found a home with the Giants, and he found, the 1 or 2 things that he does really well for a baseball team. So he's kind of paved his own little way. And the thing that's, with Slater's, he just keeps getting hurt. That could be a problem for him. But I think both players are pretty darn good players as bench depth. It's just the Giants have to start them, and then they're less valuable as starting players because there's more expectation on their offense.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you say fourth outfielders. These guys have been our starting outfield for the last couple of years. So that tells you the upgrades that are needed. So if Conforto can come around and have a good season, and you can get a guy like Bellinger, I can see a trade. It's not going to be for a frontline starter. It's not going to be for you're not going to trade Yaz and end up getting Jonathan India from the Reds unless Yaz is going over there with Luis Matos or somebody else, and then you get Jonathan India over. I've seen predicted years for a Cody Bellinger contract anywhere between 7 and 12. Yeah. But you got to remember too, and this is so the 7, I saw a lot of people laughing at the 7, but then I started thinking the guy's only 28.
Yeah, he's a young dude.
And he doesn't turn 29 until middle of July. So he's got a lot of years left. In 12 years, I don't think one bounce back year has earned Cody Bellinger a 12-year contract offer.
You know what's amazing to me about these long contracts is, let's say you and I decided to work for a company that was in a different city that we live in, right?
Yeah.
So you're betting that this new environment is going to be the environment that you will want to be in for an extended period of time.
Right.
So I always look at Bryce Harper, Philadelphia. Bryce Harper decided when he was 20 something years old that the next 10 years of his life was going to be in Philadelphia because no trade clause. Like, I'm here. This dude grew up in Las Vegas, right? I'm sure you do your research and sort of figure out the community, and maybe you have some family. Like, all that all that's cool, but it's not like these free agents necessarily have their choice of where, obviously there has to be a need, there has to be a team who's ready.
Mhm.
So for Cody Bellinger, grows up and plays for the Dodgers, and he kind of flames out in LA, and he finds a home, and he has a great year in Chicago. Those are two really cool cities, like, if you want to live in those cities. And so now, and you kind of look at the Correa. This is Davis, who's in our chat. Davis currently lives in Minnesota, and he grew up in the Bay Area. So, he made the choice to go and live out there. But, you just kind of wonder how can you make that decision to basically say, I've never lived in this place in my entire life, but I'm just going to dedicate the next 10 years of my life to this one area. That's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's how I ended up here in Reno too. We left the Bay Area. I'd lived there all my life, 30 years. Things didn't work out at a job that I was at, and we'd come to Reno once or twice. Denise and we decided, let's go to Reno. It's kind of a cool place. It's out of the hectic rat race of the Bay Area.
So that was
It's
her.
more
That was
open.
her call or her
It was
idea.
both of us. We were kind of kicking around the idea of like, hey, and she still had a job at the Mercury News. So it was like she had to leave that job and come find a newspaper job up here
Yeah.
in Reno. And we decided, you know what, if we're going to start a family, we hadn't had kids yet. So we
Yeah.
said, if we're going to start a family, we want to do it somewhere a little more open. We love to hike. We love to go camping. We love the outdoors. So we thought this is kind of the place.
Mhm.
And we moved here in January, and the day we moved here, I think it was about 62 degrees, and we go, "Oh, winter's not too bad." 3 days later, it pounded down snow, and we're like, "Oh, okay, this is winter."
So per Andy Baggerly, he wrote today, the Giants have a little more than $100 million committed to 9 players. Conforto, Stripling, who we already know, he had mentioned he was opting in. After last year talking about how he was on the Phantom DL. Alex Cobb, they picked up his option. It looks like Alex Cobb's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. He had hip surgery, the issue that he was dealing with all last year. Mitch Haniger, Wilmer Flores, Anthony DeSclafani, our favorite, Luke Jackson, Taylor Rogers, Logan Webb. So they are forecasted to spend roughly $28 million if they tender contracts to all 6 of their arbitration-eligible players: J.D. Davis, Tyro Estrada, Lamont Wade, Austin Slater, Mike Yastrzemski, and Tyler Rogers. So what about some of their I guess their rookies don't count in this number, or their younger players don't count
No.
in this number?
No, I think not, because some of them are just on the minor league deals.
Like, what about, like, Camilo?
Yeah, let me look. I have it bookmarked, the salaries and contracts on Baseball Reference. I like to look at this every now and then, and it's probably because we played out of the park so much. I really like this page a lot. Doval is pre-arbitration. So this year he made 735,000. So he's probably going to make, there's probably going to be a bump in that. There's the minimum. It's probably going to go to like 750, 755, something like that. So that's what he'll make in that. Joey Bart is pre-arb. David VR is pre-arb.
So
yeah,
how do those pre-arb contracts, how do they work in the overall team salary? Because those guys are not guys that Baggerly even mentioned in how the Giants get to 100 million committed.
I wonder if he didn't mention them just because they're on the lower end of everything. Because there are 1, 2. Yeah, I mean, really, just Joey Bart, Camilo Duvall, and David VR are at the 735 mark. So that's the only thing I can think of. All three of those guys are under 2 years of service, and everybody else is above 2 years of service. Tyro is the next lowest at 2.169 years of service, and he made 2.25 million, but he's in an arbitration year this year. So
Baggerly also wrote, their future flexibility is wide open because Logan Webb's the only Giant under contract past 2025. So we last year when we were doing this show, we were like counting down, or even when we started the shows, like we're counting down the days of Evan Longoria's contract to be expired.
yeah.
And now it's they can play with money. Like Baggerly also wrote that, if they wanted to chase Shohei and they wanted to chase Bellinger and they wanted to chase the Korean player, they could literally get all of them if they wanted, based on how their cap. I say cap, but it is kind of like a cap now, the way that baseball.
And they have tiers of caps too. So I think we're talking now about the first tier of the cap,
180 or something.
To get those numbers, they use the AAV, right? Not the ABV. They use the AAV to get to those numbers. Because when you look at Logan Webb's contract, it was this year 4.6 million, next year 8, 2025 12, then it goes to 23, and then 24. So I think they take the AAV in order to decide,
or 17 or whatever that is.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you look at 2025, we're talking about after 2025, Logan Webb is the only one under contract. When you look at 2025, if Mitch Haniger doesn't take the player option, if Wilmer doesn't
that brother's taking the player option.
He probably will. It's worth 15.5. So, and he'll be 35 years old at that point. So Wilmer Flores will be 34 and he's due a team option of 8.5 and a player option of 3.5. So if neither of those are taken, and if Luke Jackson's team option isn't picked up, then in 2025, you only have 2 players under contract, Logan Webb and Taylor Rogers. Everybody else is arbitration, and then you're looking at free agency for all the rest of the guys. So,
all right, if you were to we'll end with this.
Yeah.
If I was to say, okay, Brad, we know the Giants need big money guys.
Yeah.
We talked about the priority last week. Yes or no? The Giants get one of those top 3 guys that we talked about last week. We're not even counting Ohtani, because Ohtani's the unicorn. That's if we wake up and the sun wants to shine on us that day, we will get him. But if it doesn't, which it more than likely won't, we won't. But, we talked about the 3 other guys. Do the Giants get one of them?
If the Giants get Shohei, I name my next cat Shohei. Just saying that right off the bat.
My future grandchild will have Shohei as the middle name.
Excellent. I like that. I would say yes. I think the Giants, we're trying to throw money at everybody last year.
So the guys we're talking about, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the pitcher, the 25-year-old from Japan. Mm-hmm. We also talked about Cody Bellinger, can play center. He can also play some first base. And then I think we talked about, did we talk about
Lee? We talked about Lee, right?
Yeah, we talked about Lee as well, the Korean player, Jung-Hoo Lee,
also a center fielder. Outfielder. I say we get 2 of them.
Actually. Oh, wow.
I say we get Yamamoto and I say we get Bellinger. That would be I love Shohei, but to spread money around, and I think the Giants you got to make a splash this offseason, especially with Bob Melvin. I can see Cody Bellinger coming to play for Bob Melvin. It's going to be tough, though, because, again, if we're seeing 7 to 12-year deals, the Giants aren't known for doing that, but the hitting free agents this year, offensive free agents this year, after Cody Bellinger, it kind of drops off, man. I mean,
Position
there's not
players
a
are rough.
position players. There aren't a whole lot out there. So if you're going to do it, it's going to be Cody Bellinger, because you've got Juan Soto next season, possibly. If he gets traded from the Padres to another team, he's got 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah.
Then that other team kind of has the front run,
Yeah.
at him. So I say Yamamoto and Bellinger, at least one of those two guys, but I could see those two guys both being signed by the Giants, because they're
Okay.
desperate. They want to give money right now.
What
They want
if
to put people in the seats.
Farhan is like, hey, I got 3 years. Melvin's got 3 years. We're going Rams style. F them picks. We're going all in. We're just throwing the money
Lester
around.
Sneed.
I'm just kidding. But I do wonder if the overcorrection for Farhan is to be less I don't know why. I can't say for sure why they lost the free agent deals that they did.
Right.
We assume Judge was just using the Giants as leverage. Correa, that whole thing, we know how that happened. He did have a pretty good postseason though. So I do wonder if there's going to be an overcorrection to be maybe less safe in some of these deals to get some guys, because they know that they need to fill this ballpark up again. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. I don't imagine so. I think they're probably going to kind of do the same thing that they always do and just hope that Melvin is going to be enough to draw some guys. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I know this is not fun, and I don't want this to happen, but I kind of feel like we're going to get like the second and third level free agents again, and they're going to try and fill them, fill out positions and hope that we get some career years like in 2021. That is what I expect, not my hope. I would love to get, I want Yamamoto pretty badly. Like, I'm so about these international players coming over. I just think it's so cool. So so we'll end it there, but we'll have a lot to talk about this offseason. By the way, Davis said that he already promised himself that his first child would be named Debo.
Debo Shohei.
He said maybe Shohei could be the second one.
There you go. Debo hyphen Shohei.
Yeah, you know what? Crystal,
just call him DS.
Crystal and I, we had one we got a schnauzer, a mini schnauzer during the pandemic, and then we were like, okay, that's it. And then we're like, you know what? This schnauzer is so good. Like, let's get another one. So we got his actual sister. Is this a different second litter? And she's awesome. Like, they're both awesome. And so you kind of get like this, if you add a third, will it be as awesome as these other puppies? And I think we both agree that it would not.
Yes.
But if we did decide to add a third puppy, maybe Shohei would be the name. That
we kind of roll that way with the cats too. We've got the two cats, they're sisters, they're good, they're cool. We adopted them at the same time from the Humane Society. I'm always like, hey man, what if we add a third or a fourth? And it's like, no, this is really, really good right now. They're pretty chill and they're pretty calm, and I can only scoop litter boxes so many times a day. So,
yes,
two is plenty.
Yes. All right. We are done here. Thanks to Davis for hanging out with us. He's like been the third man on this show the last couple
I like it, man. I like it.
So we'll be back next week, hopefully with some news. Maybe news of a sneak first place finish of Cy Young for Logan Webb. Just pulled it out.
That'd be awesome.
But we'll be back next week. So for Brad, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.